Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do, and I'll bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico Easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
Images of Haitian migrants being hit with whips and other forms of physical violence is completely unacceptable.
Whips!
This behavior must be addressed, and we must provide accountability. The images turn your stomach. It must be stopped.
Must be stopped. That's Chuck Schumer, the Lizard King, lying again. You know, this is the kind of propaganda we used to have to depend on the Soviet Union for. Anti-American, false, lies, smears. But now the Democrat leadership in Congress does it for them. He went on to blame Trump. He blamed Trump for Haitians not being whipped at the border. Guy riding horseback. I don't think Chuck Schumer would stay on a horse for 5 feet before he slipped over the side and broke his neck. No, I'm not saying we should pitch in and buy him a horse. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
So I urge President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas to immediately put a stop to these expulsions and to end this Title 42 policy at our southern border. That we cannot continue these hateful and xenophobic Trump policies.
How many years do they have to be in power before they take responsibility and put on their big boy pants? The answer is never. And the reason they don't have to is because of a corrupt news media which does not do its job as envisioned by the geniuses that founded this great nation. We are in deep, I got to say. And the lie, the lie lives and the truth dies because of people like the Lizard King, Chuck Schumer, who's anti-American, un-American. He is as corrupt as anybody in Washington. He's a dirty, rotten, filthy guy. And, the Russian collusion and Hunter Biden's laptop was not Hunter Biden's laptop. And the Border Patrol using whips on Haitians and scenes from the days of Democrat slavery. We had to take the slaves away from the Democrats and their boy Jefferson Davis and all that good stuff. Absolutely crazy. Crazy, crazy. The Associated Press has the story today. Officials, they love their colons, don't they? Many migrants from border camp staying in U.S. Oh, that's a shock. I can hardly believe that. The Associated Press. Many migrants from border camp. It's a border camp. Have you seen it? It's, I think Joe Biden's going to have the second biggest airlift in history now because of all the people who are just, sleeping on the ground in the United States of America. And they didn't really come from Haiti. Originally they came from Haiti, but they've been living in Peru and Brazil and Ecuador and various other countries in Latin America for who knows how many years. Some of them, they say they fled in 2010. That's 11 years ago, more than a decade. But the Democrats rang the dinner bell because they hate America and white people too. Most of them are white, of course, but they're self-loathing white people. Amazing. Oh, yeah, speaking of which, they're self-loathing Jews, too, the Democrats. You see that the squad, I want to get to this, the squad the trillions and trillions Democrat Party slush funds, the biggest theft in the history of the world, and they took money out that would have gone to Israel for a defensive system called Iron Dome. Iron Dome is a defensive system that the Israelis use, and it's our technology. We're the United States of America, and they improved it because they're Israel. And the Democrats here, they want to do away with Iron Dome funding for Israel because their anti-Semitism comes in many forms. And the squad They're all virulent anti-Semites. You remember Jeremiah Wright, who was Barack Obama's spiritual guidepost, saying the Jews won't let Barack meet with him, and we deserved September 11th. That's Barack Obama's church and Michelle Obama's church in Chicago, the Trinity United Church of Christ, not exactly on our side or the side of Western civilization. But they're big. The left is an anti-Semitic party. They have most American Jews on their side, but they're still an anti-Israel. And we're anti-Zionist. We're not anti-Jewish. There's only one Jewish state. It's like saying you're anti-Japan, but you're not anti-Japanese. And you remember Jeremiah Wright, the Jews aren't going to let him meet with Barack.
Have you spoken with him since he's been in the White House?
The Jews ain't going to let him talk to me.
You know the Jews ain't going to let him talk to me. House Democrats on Tuesday stripped $1 billion from Israel's Iron Dome defense system from its short-term government funding bill after backlash from progressives. See, they're progressive, which means they're genocidal Jew haters. That's what it comes down to. This was shared with me yesterday afternoon by a friend who is Jewish and not anti-Israel and not an anti-Semite and not self-loathing. The progressives are, of course, the squad because they're like Ilhan Omar, right, and Rashida Tlaib. Funding for the Jews to defend themselves against missiles fired by jihadis in Hamas and Hezbollah, funded by Iran, with dollars given to Iran by the Obama-Biden administration? No, not a thing. So again, let's keep in mind, this is a purely defensive system. This has no offensive capabilities whatsoever. It doesn't fire missiles except to shoot down incoming missiles that are typically targeting schools and always civilian populations, always. And so it is just amazing. The left, the Democrat Party, they're not on our side. They're just not on our side. And again, and they're not on the side of Western civilization. They're on the side of Marxism. Let's see, you boil it right down. That sounds like, that's crazy talk. No, look at them. Look at Black Lives Matter being anti-Israel. Black Lives Matter. Anti-Israel. Well, Black Lives Matter has foreign policy. Well, only when it comes to one country, the Jews, and they're against them. Sig Heil, Black Lives Matter. They also anti-nuclear family, which you can find that's Marxism also. Black Lives Matter. Anti-nuclear family, the Communist Manifesto, Frederick Engels, Karl Marx, anti-nuclear family, destroy the nuclear family. It competes with the power of the state, for one thing, with the supreme power of the state. So the Jews are now out, the Democrats are out to get the Jews again. The left, the National Socialist German Workers' Party and all that. But never mind that. Yeah, so the Associated Press has that many Haitian migrants camped in a small Texas border town are being released in the United States, the Associated Press reports. 2 U.S. officials said, undercutting the Biden administration's public statements that the thousands in the camp face immediate expulsion. Second biggest airlift in history. His botched exit from Afghanistan leading to untold murders, massacres, suicide attacks. But they've got their own suicide attackers here in the United States, the Democrats do. James Hodgkinson, Micah Xavier Johnson, to name but 2 suicide attackers. Ishmael Brinsley, to name but 3 Democrat Party suicide attackers. Attacking members of Congress and police. Never mind that, though. Haitians have been freed on a very, very large scale in recent days, according to one U.S. official who put the figure in the thousands. The official, who has direct knowledge of the operations, was not authorized to discuss the matter Tuesday, and he spoke on the condition of anonymity. Now, doesn't everybody in this corrupt, stinking city filled with filthy, corrupt people who lie to us constantly? Everybody's anonymous. Many have been released with notices to appear at an immigration office within 60 days. That ought to work out well. An outcome that requires less processing time from Border Patrol agents than ordering an appearance in immigration court, and points to the speed at which authorities are moving. To release thousands of Haitians who are coming to us. And what is this immigration policy that they have? Just extraordinary. All right, and we have, let's go to some audio. We have Kamala. Whereas in the halls of Kamala. And CNN, God, they're awful. And Nancy Pelosi, she's terrible too. All right, where is Kamala? Was it? 18. Number 18, I apologize. It's right there in the number 18 slot, Kamala Harris. And you just heard Chuck Schumer says inhumane treatment of black people, whipping them from horseback. Didn't happen. Anti-American propaganda by the Senate Majority Leader, the Democrat senator from New York, who is as corrupt as any filthy politician has ever been in the history of corrupt politicians. And he's the whips. We should get out a little, I heard screaming and bullwhips cracking, and we got little Neil Young, how long, Southern man. Just amazing. And then it's Trump's fault because Biden's only been in charge for how many, what do we have, it's 8 months as of yesterday, 8 months as of, or day before. And he's in charge for 8 months, and he's blaming Trump administration policies. This wasn't happening and didn't happen under Trump. This happened under you corrupt Democrats, and Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer. Kamala Harris, not very bright, really dated her way to the middle and then got catapulted to the top for no good reason, for all the wrong reasons. Kamala Harris, again, echoing the Democrat Party talking points. And she's the vice president. This is her administration. But again, they take responsibility for nothing. That Joe Biden's in government for 120 years, and he's like, I can't believe what the government's been doing for the last 50 years. That's you. And they just walk away from it, and the media says, yeah, it really is an outrage. Good thing he pointed it out. He's the perp. He's the guy you're looking for. And Kamala Harris is the vice president, and she's in charge of the border, if I remember correctly. Isn't that right? She's in charge of the border. And what's her name? Jen Psaki said, she's doing a bang-up job, doing a heck of a job. And here's Kamala Harris. Again, it's the Biden-Harris administration, and she has been tasked with managing the border situation. And here she is, incredulous that people are being beaten with whips when that didn't happen. But again, anti-American propaganda. The Chinese communists must look at this and say, we don't need to do anything. The Democrat Party does all of our work for us, and their media allies, of course. Kamala yesterday on the border.
What I saw depicted about those individuals on horseback treating human beings the way they were is horrible. And I fully support what is happening right now, which is a thorough investigation into exactly what is going on there. But human beings should never be treated that way, and I'm deeply troubled about it.
Well, let's put them on planes and send them back to their beautiful home nation of Haiti and see how that goes. Kamala, what I saw depicted. Depicted is what I saw depicted. And no human beings. They love human beings and funding for Planned Parenthood. Two things they love very much. Children, and they care very deeply about people. And then they create all these catastrophes, these disasters, and they are apparently congenitally incapable of taking responsibility as adults might do. Kamala Harris.
The whole point is that we have to understand Haiti. I mean, talk about a country that has just experienced so much tragedy that has been about natural disasters. And we really have to do a lot more to recognize that as a member of the Western Hemisphere, we've got to support some very basic needs that the people of Haiti have.
Which we've been doing for about 100 years. And the Clintons took over, and I think Jeffrey Epstein went there, but mostly the Clintons were there for the dates. They were there. No, they fall from trees. It's like a fruit. Just kidding. They're there for the dates. Let's not kid ourselves. Joe Biden, back in 1994. We've been doing some Joe Biden in the archive stuff. 1994, talking about Haiti.
If Haiti, a god-awful thing to say, if Haiti just quietly sunk into the Caribbean or rose up 300 feet, it wouldn't matter a whole lot in terms of our...
It wouldn't matter a whole lot if it sunk into the sea, if Haiti sunk into the sea. It's good to be a Democrat, isn't it? Because the media expunges your record every morning when they wake up. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday. They expunge your record of all of your offenses. No problem whatsoever. Haiti. Yeah. You ever notice when you walk into your home, it doesn't smell as fresh as it once did, as you'd like it to smell? You know what I'm talking about. As things age, the paint, the carpet in your home absorb all kinds of different smells, aromas, odors, everything from pet stuff and litter boxes, cigarette smoke, chemical fumes, cooking smells, life itself. After a whole lot of time, this buildup of smells creates a breeding ground of musty, impossible to get rid of odors, aromas. But the Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier is guaranteed to eliminate any odor, no matter how bad it is. No more using odor cover-ups and spray cans to mask the smell. The Thunderstorm sends out O3 molecules into the air. They seek out nasty smells, germs, and mold, and destroys them at their source. Even behind objects, under furniture, there's no hiding from the incredible power of the Thunderstorm. Other air purifiers can cost up to $600 American for just one unit, but you can get several Thunderstorms for a fraction of that price. You can hold a Thunderstorm in your hand, too. It's not the size of a piece of furniture. And with the discount code Chris, that's me, you're going to save an additional $10. So go to EdenPureDeals.com, put in the discount code Chris. Save $10 off their lowest sale price. Order today before this deal expires, though. Go to EdenPureDeals.com, put in the discount code Chris. That's EdenPureDeals.com. Discount code is Chris, and the shipping is free. Yeah, they're shocked to find what their administration is doing. They want an investigation, and they want to lynch some law enforcement because they're an anti-law enforcement party. And that goes to your local police and to Border Patrol, and they're an open border party. And they love calling everybody racist, even though they're the party of lynching people and of slavery and Jim Crow and standing in schoolhouse doors. Just a little reminder.
There's only one Chris Plant. The Chris Plant Show.
Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do, and I'll bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
DNC last night, owned and operated cable channel, Democrat Party owned and operated cable. Stephanie Ruhle pretended for a moment to be a journalist because Kamala Harris, where she was at somebody's private estate yesterday with a mask on, talking to reporters for about a minute as they fluffed her. And Stephanie Ruhle wanted to know, hey, isn't she in charge of the border?
How about the message from our vice president? Where is she? She was supposed to be in charge of all of these migration issues, going to those northern triangle countries. That's obviously not Haiti. That was one of her first international trips with the message, do not come here illegally. People aren't listening. What is she saying now?
What is she saying now? And Julia Ainsley responded.
Well, we haven't heard a lot from the vice president. Of course, you point out she was focused on those northern triangle countries. A lot of her work was in Guatemala, working with that government. A lot of the diplomacy, which is what the vice president was focused on, was with Mexico. And essentially what we're seeing now is a breakdown of that work with Mexico.
Now he's destroyed relations with Mexico, too, that Trump had set up properly to secure our border, and now Mexico has spoiled that, too?
This is the Chris Plant Show.
The Democrats, that's right. It's I heard screaming and bullwhips cracking, and how long? It is, the Democrat Party, they know how to tear a country apart. There was a poll came out the other day that we Americans believe the country is more divided, much more divided under Joe Biden than we were even under Donald Trump. And, of course, they were the ones driving the divisions during Donald Trump because Hillary Clinton was supposed to win, you may remember. And then Russian collusion, remember, and impeachment and Ukrainian phone call looking into the Biden family's corruption. And then, irony of ironies, Joe Biden and his corrupt family end up in the White House. Where is Hunter Biden anyway? Where is he's in the witness protection program. I assume he's just living off of his art. Last time I saw, I guess he was in the $20,000 a month Malibu beach rental with Malibu Barbie or whatever Russian hooker he's renting at the time, because that's our boy. I'm Picasso! It's good to be a Democrat, though, isn't it? I mean, if this were the Trump kids behaving the way Hunter Biden, I think it'd be a daily story. And it took until yesterday before the phony baloney fakes at the Politico, left-wing blog site in Washington, came out and said, oh yeah, by the way, all those stories about the laptop and Hunter Biden, those were all true. They didn't get into details and how the media lied about it and how Twitter and Facebook buried the story because they're billionaires that are in the service of the Democrat Party. And then, of course, the Democrat Party is in the service of the billionaires because that's how that works. It's not a one-way street, after all. But the people at Politico finally stepped up. Politico's confirmation of Hunter Biden laptop materials prompts criticism of earlier reporting. Oh, you think? Wow, that's amazing. Politico reporter confirms emails from Hunter Biden's laptop. You know, I confirmed them a year ago, and I didn't have to lift a finger to do it.
There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani. You mean the
Giuliani is slurring his speech. He's not even drunk. He's just a moron. He might be drunk too, but he's a moron. And that was Joe Biden lying to the American people. And then the entirety of the American news media lied along with him. They lied and lied and lied because that's what they do. They're not a legitimate news media. The American news media is corrupt. I'm sorry to have to say. I grew up in a news media family. I'm third generation radio and television. Got brothers in the business. I was with CNN, of all things, for all those years. And now I'm just in the business of telling the truth. And it's I was before, too, but that's why I had to leave. New York, and here's another one. So it turns out that all these stories are true, and the left-wing Politico declares this to be so. So now they all speak for each other. It's a great big circle fest in a hot tub, and so now all the rest of the media say, well, yeah, of course it's true. They all knew it was true at the time. Of course that's right. Of course it's really Hunter Biden's laptop. Of course the emails are real. Of course Tony Bobulinski, who is CEO of one of the Biden companies, who revealed the truth in interviews only on Fox News because nobody else wanted to talk to him, because they were actively engaged in a cover-up. And I mean, ABC News actively engaged in a cover-up. CBS News, the individuals and the collective organizations actively engaged in cover-ups. NBC News, the Washington Post, the New York Times. The New York Post reported the story, and the rest could have easily. And then we had those 50 phony, corrupt, smelly, John Brennan-led intelligence officials, and CNN's Dana Bash's ex-husband, Jeremy Bash, who was just a political appointee lawyer at the CIA, knows nothing about intelligence or anything else. And he signed on to this letter of 50 corrupt people who lied and put their stinky reputations out there to be further sullied by signing on to this phony letter and using weaselly language, which I pointed out at the time, the moment they put it out, that it has all the markings, all the earmarks of Russian misinformation.
To me, this is just classic textbook Soviet-Russian tradecraft at work.
And what he was doing was classic Soviet trade work, tradecraft, spycraft at work. That was James Clapper, of course, who lied repeatedly under oath to Congress about spying on all of us and gobbling up all of our emails and text messages, which they do, and he lied under oath to Congress about it, and a completely consequence-free environment. And then he lied to all of us, this liar who's a former general, former director of national intelligence, director of the National Security Agency, and a liar, a lying person whose wife shouldn't believe him, his children, his housekeeper shouldn't believe him, his bank shouldn't believe him, because he's a liar. His name is James Clapper, General James Clapper, former intelligence official James Clapper. John Brennan, we know, penitentiary face. First vote for him was for Gus Hall, the Communist Party candidate for the presidency of the United States. And then Barack Obama made him CIA director. Also, at the same time, you know, the American news media doesn't cover the news, they cover it up. They cover the news the same way, you know, like Betty Davis covers a baby with a pillow until it stops moving. That's how they cover the news. Betty Davis, why Betty Davis? Why not? Just amazing. Also, keep in mind, September 14th, 2021, last week, the Daily Mail reported the story. New York Times quietly deletes claim that the New York Post bombshell report on Hunter Biden's laptop was, quote, unsubstantiated, end quote. In a report on Monday, the New York Times, a week ago now, the New York Times initially claimed an October New York Post article on Hunter Biden's laptop was, quote, unsubstantiated. You see? The report concerned the Federal Election Commission ruling on Twitter had not violated election law when it blocked sharing of the article on its platform. And you remember Jack Dorsey, billionaire, Twitter weirdo, beardo, and weird little Mark Zuckerberg. They blocked the story. It was only on the lead up to Election Day. And then the polls after Election Day showed that it would have changed the votes of many millions of people knowing about this. But our media covered it up for the Democratic Party and for Biden because they hate Trump and they didn't vote for him.
We know that this whole smear on Joe Biden comes from the Kremlin. That's been clear for well over a year now that they've been pushing this false narrative about the vice president and his son.
Adam Schiff, psychopathological liar. He is just a rotten liar, and everybody knows it. And the news media keeps using him like he's the burning bush of truth. So the New York Times, they reported their Federal Election Commission decision, And they said that the New York Post stories were unsubstantiated. And then you go back to the story online, and they quote-unquote updated the story, meaning they just changed the story without mentioning it. The Times article had initially described the revelations as quote, as an unsubstantiated New York Post article about Joseph R. Biden Jr.'s son, Hunter Biden, end quote. But the story was heavily edited later in the day without any acknowledgement. And the updated New York Times story then reads, quote, Twitter decided briefly last fall to block users from posting links to an article about Joseph R. Biden Jr.'s son, Hunter. Well, what happened to the unsubstantiated thing? They just airbrushed it out like the Soviets that they are. Just extraordinary. So obviously the stories were true. Tony Bobulinski was CEO of one of the Biden companies. He confirmed that the emails were true. He was one of the recipients of a great many of the emails and on the email threads and chains. And he confirmed all of that. He did it on camera. He did it on the record. He did it before Congress. He did it in an interview with the FBI. The FBI impaneled a grand jury to look at Hunter Biden. You notice no leaks out of that. Not a single leak. Amazing. We live in very corrupt times, and the Democrat Party and the media, but I repeat myself, very, very corrupt. Boy, just awful. Let's go to, what did you want to go to, Michael? Which ones did you want to go to? You can't dither all day long. It's only a 3-hour show. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Well, that's, yeah, okay. Well, let's go to some CNN stuff, because I watched an hour of CNN this morning, and I was marveling, I tell you, at just what a propaganda show it was. It was the 6 a.m. hour of CNN, and I have this digital video recorder. I call it a DVR, and I record some of these shows, and I can go through them more quickly. They've got a couple of anchors. Brianna Keister, I think is her name, and then they got this guy, John Berman, Democrat Party apparatchiks up the yin-yang, and a phony reporter named Sarah Murray, who's perky and looks like she's in high school. And they opened the show. The whole show was an anti-Trump screed. I'm like, well, what's going on with that? The New York Times has a story, and the CNN follows like puppies. And the New York Times has a story because somebody that's suing, guy used to work for a voting machine company, and he's suing for defamation some members of the Trump legal team. And they released a document to the New York Times saying, oh, look, the Trump people knew that their claims of vote fraud were false claims. This is what the New York Times is reporting based on a document from somebody who's suing somebody. So they're obviously a biased party. They have an agenda. They're suing, and they're planning on winning. And the New York Times jumps in because it's anti-Trump. And then with the New York Times is read by all the people at CNN. And so they follow like little lapdogs, the lapdogs that they are. And Brianna Keister is one of those. And they're very excited, opening their 6 a.m. show with Trump attacks. They really miss Trump.
Breaking overnight, former President Trump suing his niece, Mary Trump, and 3 New York Times reporters alleging a, quote, insidious plot to obtain his private tax records. CNN's Sarah Murray is joining us live with more here. This is quite the family drama coming out of this, Sarah.
This is quite the family drama. This is their lead on their morning show, is that Trump's niece, who is a frothy anti-Trumper, wrote an anti-Trump book, says anti-Trump stuff every chance she gets. And they use her, knowing that what her predisposition is. They're happy to use her. And the New York Times headline, Trump campaign new lawyers' Dominion claims were baseless, memo shows. I would say memo claims. But they offer it as, proof. It's proof positive. In fact, CNN, on their screen, they had this truly amazing lower third that I took a picture of because it was so ridiculous. More damning, undeniable proof of Trump's attempted coup. Wow. I mean, that's like North Korean level vitriol and propaganda. More damning. It's not like just some damning. It's more damning, undeniable proof. It's not undeniable proof. It's a claim being made in a lawsuit by partisan actors of Trump's attempted coup. No, it's about challenging the election. And just amazing stuff. So CNN, then they go to their funny reporter, Sarah Murray, who's 16 years old or something.
I know. The Trump family food fight, it just feels like it never ends. And in this case, the former president is suing his niece, Mary Trump, as well as a handful of New York Times journalists for disclosing his tax information. The former president is asking for no less than $100 million in damages. And I don't think it'll surprise you that none of these parties are backing down. In a statement, Mary Trump said, I think he is a loser, and he is going to throw anything against the wall he can. The New York Times said they disclosed this information to inform the public, and they said that this lawsuit is an attempt to silence an independent news organization. They, of course, vowed to defend their journalists. And remember, these New York Times journalists won a Pulitzer Prize for this story regarding the former president's tax information, Brianna.
Another Pulitzer Prize that should be returned to the Pulitzer Committee. And, oh, I know. And as niece said, he's a loser. And it's and this is CNN, then the anchor boy, John Berman.
So, Sarah, while we're talking about the New York Times, the Times is also reporting that the Trump campaign knew, people inside the Trump campaign knew, that some of the wild claims about election fraud being peddled by Trump's lawyers were baseless.
Baseless. This is their lead. And they're just poaching a New York Times story that got a memo from a party that's suing somebody and making a claim. Sarah Murray pretends to be a news reporter.
Wild claims of election fraud, claims that ended up being very dangerous, claims that many of these attorneys are still making. What the New York Times reports is that there were a number of folks within the Trump campaign who knew pretty early on that these were false.
Yeah, they knew pretty early on that these were false. Brianna Keister.
Donald Trump's attempts to steal the election have not stopped even to this day. His latest effort to try to decertify his defeat in Georgia.
Honestly, this is just amazing stuff. This was their whole morning hour. John Berman.
The House moves ahead with passing a budget bill along party lines.
Pause that. I'm sorry. That's on the next ridiculous subject when they I'll get to that in just a moment. Yeah, it's a frothy anti-Trump. The lead of their morning show was just reading an article from the New York Times where they got a memo from a partisan actor who's suing somebody and acting like this is damning proof positive of attempted coup. You people are really, you shouldn't be credentialed for government buildings as journalists. Wow. Amazing. Hey, are you on Medicare? Maybe you're going to be on Medicare soon. Some important news from Newsmax. The Medicare Board of Trustees just released a report saying that the Medicare program and the program's hospital trust fund will run out of money in 2026. That's coming right up. It's happening faster than everybody said it was going to happen. But all this week, Grant Stinchfield reveals the shocking story of Medicare abuse. He talks to the insiders, tells you what's happening, and shows you how you can protect your insurance and your future. Watch Stinchfield's Medicare Abuse series on Newsmax at 8 p.m. Eastern. Newsmax is America's fastest-growing cable news channel. It's on every major cable system. Just check your cable guide. If your cable system doesn't carry Newsmax, call your cable operator. Tell them that you want it, or you're going to switch services if they don't. Get Newsmax on most streaming services, too, or download the free Newsmax app for your smartphone. Only takes a few seconds. Medicare is in real trouble. Get the facts about your insurance. You're paying for it. I watch Newsmax all the time. You should watch Stinchfield on Newsmax tonight. Yeah, CNN. That's right. And then they turned the corner and started attacking Republicans more broadly. That's coming up.
You're listening to The Chris Plante Show.
Let's go to Alan, calling from Chicago, Illinois, listening on WLS. Alan, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, good morning, Chris. In your first segment, you talked about slavery, Jim Crow, and all of the sins of the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something. I'd like to update that. Here in Chicago this weekend, there were over 60 people shot. The majority were black. 9 killed. I live in a city where black children fail in education at a rate that is inexcusable, though we spend $15,000, $16,000 per child. But I also wanted to say something. If you read Dinesh D'Souza's book, The End of Racism, you'll understand slavery in a way that others do not want you to know. Slaves were certainly denied freedom and liberty, absolutely. But as to whipping and the mistreatment, it was not extensive because the history of slavery in this country was the average slave had an income level about that of low-income whites in the South.